going on YouTube? We're just back out here in the garage today. I'm going to be doing some work on the 2021 ZX6R, my track bike. I got to finish getting it ready for track day on Monday. So in this video I'm going to do a coolant flush on it. I'm going to be putting distilled water in it and water wetter. So I'm just going to make a little quick how-to video on how to drain the coolant out of this bike, and then obviously how to add new coolant in. Also in this video I had a subscriber that was asking if I would be able to go over the turn signals on the bike. So I'm going to go over that quickly. He was just curious as to how they mount on the front fairing of the bike, and then I can also show him the wiring for it. So with that being said, let's get into the video, and we'll see you on the bike. Alright, so here's the front fairing for the bike. So the turn signals obviously are mounted on the side of it. There's two screws on the front here that the little plastic covers come off, and the bracket is just hidden down here between the ram air inlets for the bike. And then the wiring runs just up around the thing, and then it comes into this this main wiring harness that's right here, and then same thing on the other side. It comes off of like right here, these two little connectors right here, which is connected to the main harness thing here, and then it travels around and goes down the side of the air box, so the air inlets for the air box, and then obviously the screws on the outside, and then I believe that there's screws holding the bracket on down deeper in there. So it's looking like you have to get these guys off in order to access the turn signals. And it seems like it's kind of a simple thing. There's two screws here at the bottom of the fairing that hold it on, and there's probably a couple more everywhere else, but you just have to take a look around and try and find where the rest of the screws are that are holding this big plastic piece in to get access at that stuff. On the front of the bike there is a connector right here. This is like the main wiring harness that connects to the lighting for the front of the bike. So it's the turn signals, it's the high beam, low beam, and the running light, and I believe that's the only thing that is running through this connector right here. So that connects to all the connectors, the other connector on the front fairing, and then for your turn signals and everything like that. So that's how everything's connected. So they're a little bit buried down there. I'm not too sure what the person who was asking about and what they want to do with them, but that's how they're mounted and on the front end. So I hope that helps you with the turn signals. Thanks for the comment, and thanks for the subscribe if you're subscribed, so it's really awesome, man. Yeah, so we'll just jump over to doing the coolant flush now, and we'll go over the process of doing that. Alright, so to do the coolant flush on this, I'm not 100% sure. It's my first time doing it on it, but I just did mine on my girlfriend's bike the other night, and it was a pretty simple task. I think the harder part is filling it back up afterwards and getting all the air bubbles out of it. I have a tool that I'll show in later on in the video that fits on the radiator cap to allow you to bleed out all the air bubbles, and then make sure that it's full. So I'll show that at the end of the video when I do the filling up of the rad. Obviously the first thing to note about doing anything coolant related is that it's definitely not a good idea to do this when the bike is hot, right? So if you've just gone for a ride, it's definitely not a good idea to open this, because there's going to be a lot of pressure behind that cap, and you're going to end up with significant burns on your hands when the fluid starts coming out and gets all over you, right? And depending on how hot the bike is, it might start spraying everywhere, right? If you open it too fast. So just don't do it hot. Just wait till the bike cools down, or don't ride the bike and do the coolant flush before that. It's not a suggestion, it's probably a must do. Don't do it while the bike's hot. And they take forever to cool down, so you might as well just do it when it's cool. So I'm guessing, like I did on the other bike, is the first step is to open up your rad cap. Kawasaki has a little screw that's built into these rad caps to stop them from turning off. So you turn it one way, and then, oh, actually no, sorry, that must have been on my other bike. It was on my DRZ. Sorry, I was mistaken. There's no screw holding it on there. So you just twist it off, and yeah, and then that pops off. To do the drain of the system on this bike, from what I found on the internet, there's a little tiny bolt at the bottom of the water pump that's sitting on the side here. You can drain it from there. Likewise, taking this hose off, right here at the bottom there's a hose and a little connector, clamp I mean. That would be a good way of doing it as well. I'm going to try seeing if this bolt actually works. I'm going to do it that way. I don't have a compressor to blow everything out, so I'm going to end up having to put my mouth on the end of the rad cap filler hole and blowing the stuff out, but it should drain out for the most part by itself. The other thing too is that you need to drain your reservoir, because there's coolant that's in here that from overflow from when the coolant expands because of heat, and that's where all the coolant ends up that when it expands. So have to drain that guy out too. That's an easy process. It's just taking this little guy off right here and the coolant will drain out. They don't want any coolant in on the track, obviously, because if you go down and you break your rad open or crack your rad, then there's going to be coolant. And I don't know if you've ever had coolant on your hands, but coolant is very, very, very slippery. So that and tires on the track don't equal a good thing. So that's why we put distilled water in it. And then there's like a little bit of a lubricating thing. It's called water wetter. And you also put that in there as well. So I'm going to jump over onto the bike and I'm going to get the coolant drained out of it, and then we'll fill her back up. Alright, so I'm going to attempt to drain the coolant out of it. I think that I'm going to try using the bolt that's down here. I think it's the one, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just going to take it out and we'll find out, but I'm pretty sure that's where it is. I'm not too sure the size yet, but I'll get the tools ready here and then we'll just take that off. Alright, so the bolt, or the bolt that's right here, it's 8 mil, so we'll try that. Wasn't on there very tight. Make sure that the cap's off on the other side so that it drains out easier. Alright, so we got the cap off. If you get any coolant on your floor, you definitely want to make sure you clean it up. You don't want your pets coming out into the garage or whatever and then drinking this stuff, and store it in a place where it's safe, because coolant is, from my understanding, it's like a neurotoxin, so it wouldn't be good for your animals to sit there and lick it off the floor. Yep, so that was it. Alright, so we got that draining out. We'll let all that come out and we'll flush it out with a little bit of fresh coolant, and when it starts coming, or not coolant, when, distilled water, and when it starts coming out smooth, or not smooth, geez, learn to talk today, Grant. When it starts coming out clear, then you know that it's basically flushed. At the same time, I think I'm going to do the reservoir, and it looks like it's just held on by this little hose, or it's just this little hose here, and I can drain that, so we'll get that guy off next. That was an airtight seal, that doesn't want to come out, so you got to take your cap off in order for the coolant to start coming out of the overflow reservoir. If you have the cap on at the top, it creates pressure inside and doesn't allow air to enter into the container to allow the fluid to come out. So even take the cap off, air can get in, and helps push the coolant out. Physics. Those guys drip out. As I said, I don't have a compressor, and this is kind of a gross way of doing this, but I'm just going to blow in the fill hole, or the filler cap on the rad, and just put a little bit of air in there. I mean, it's probably not the best way to do this. A rag and an air compressor with a blowing tool is probably the best way to do it. But I don't have that, so we'll improvise. Alright, so I'll let that drip out a little bit more. I'm going to let it just drip, and then I'm going to put some fresh distilled water through it to help rinse it out. Okay, so a lot of the coolant's dripped out now. I put the bolt that I took out earlier on the bottom of the water pump out, and I'm just going to fill the rad up with some distilled water, and then to flush it out, and then I'm going to pull that little bolt out again and let all this drain out. This is going to be a bit of a challenge trying to hold a camera and do this at the same time, so hopefully I don't spill. It's easier to look at what you're doing and not the camera screen. You definitely want to use the distilled water to do the flushing as well, and also what you're going to run in it. I wouldn't recommend using tap water. I remember back when I was younger and I was doing a coolant flush on my dirt bikes, I would just use the garden hose and flush out the system. Not necessarily sure how bad it would be for the cooling system on your bike, but you know, you get the impurities and stuff like that. At least this distilled water is bottled up and it's filtered, so you know that there's no impurities in it. Like, there's nothing that's going to get in there and cause an issue. So the rad's all full now. Got that all filled up, and you can see all the air bubbles coming out. But it doesn't matter at this point. We're just gonna drain out all the distilled water. I might try and give the bike a little bit of a start here. Don't run it, like you don't want it to get hot, but just allow the coolant to be passed around, or the distilled water to be circulated around the engine by the coolant pump, right? And if it does start, you can run for a couple seconds, but just turn it off. Alright. And then we'll go back over to the other side and we'll pull out that drain bolt again. Be smart this time and move the bucket back. But at the same time, I don't know how far it's going to shoot out this time. Ah! Look at that! Got my aim right. Alright, so it's coming out again. It's not as green this time, obviously, so it means to help clear it out a little bit. And then at the same time, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start pouring a little bit more distilled water in. And just keep it going through. Hopefully that's not just overshooting the bucket and ending up on the other side of all over the floor on the other side of the bike, which I can't see right now. Let's see if that's coming out any clearer yet. Oh yeah. Water's basically clear now again, so that's good. Might have to switch that bucket out. Alright, cool. And I'm going to do the same thing with the reservoir. I'm just going to put a little coolant, flush a little coolant through it. Okay, I'm just going to throw a little bit of distilled water in the reservoir here, and it should just instantly come out, just to give it a little bit of a flush too. There wasn't much in there at all, so yeah, it's just trickling out. Oh, the bucket's in the wrong spot. Perfect. Okay, so now that we got the system flushed out, I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to put the drain bolt back in. I'm going to put the reservoir hose back on after it's done trickling out. And then I'm going to fill up the rad and the bike with coolant, and I'll show you that little tool that I have to help fill and get the air bubbles out of the bike. Or I mean out of the cooling system. Alright, so here's a little tool that I got, this filling tool that I got. So it's got these little different adapters. Comes with a whole bunch of them, and then a little plunger in this that goes down in the center to block the passageway. So you fill up the rad with this attached, you find the right adapter that fits and the right cap adapter that fits, and you put that on there and you fill the bike up with the funnel, right? And then you start the bike, let it start cycling, blah, 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 getting hot, and you have to keep liquid inside of here. And then as the bike needs more liquid or more fluid, right, more water, especially once the thermostat opens and it cycles through the engine, this level will go down, right? So you have to keep topping this guy up, and then you let the bike sit there and idle, and then when you stop seeing bubbles coming up out of the little tiny hole, you turn the bike off and let the coolant start to let the bike start cooling down, and as the bike cools down, this level is also going to go down again, so you have to keep topping it up. And once you notice that this stops going down, then you can put this plunger back in, pull it off the system, right, and then you can put the stock radiator cap back on. So it's a handy little thing. Doing it without this, pretty difficult. I did it on my girlfriend's bike, but it just, every time the bike got hot, it would start overflowing out of the cap. So this prevents the overflowing out of the cap. And I think this is the proper way to do it. And I'm probably going to actually use this to redo hers one more time. I'm not going to do that on camera. A good thing to note that is the coolant on the other side, yeah, it started out coming out clear, but as you add it and fill it up and run the bike, it's going to get dirty again with the coolant that it had in before. So I'm going to probably do this a couple times. I'm not going to show you guys me doing it 3 times. Like that's just boring. So I just wanted to make this video on how to do it once, and this is the process how to do it. As I said, I'm going to flush it out probably 1 or 2 more times just to make sure that all the Prestone or whatever they used in this one is out, and then that way there's no coolant in there, and it's just water and water. So we'll just we'll get that guy attached to the rad, and then we'll start filling up the bike. Sure what adapter fits, but I think it's this one. It's got to be able to go in the hole, and it's got like a little rubber, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got a little rubber guy on the end of that. And then this right here just goes compression fit into that, and then your radiator cap that they provide, you just match it with the one in the kit. I'm thinking that it's this one, not too sure, but it looks to be about the right size. Yeah, that's the right one. No, it's not. Oh, it is. Yeah, that's the right one. Well, it's hard to say. Maybe not. And of course, now I can't get it off. Uh-oh. Okay, so maybe that's not the right one. There we go, found the right adapter. Just gotta push it in there a little harder. Alright, so I got that guy on there nice and tight. Got a bunch of little angle adapters that you can use. Do whatever you want on it. That should work just fine there. Alright, so yeah, so you just fill all your coolant in here and fill up the rad. And obviously it's filling up the engine too. You just take your distilled water. not going in anymore, so that means that we have the, it's full. But once you start the bike and allow it to circulate, that level is obviously going to go down. So we're going to get the bike started and add some more distilled water in it. Once the bike gets to temperature, the thermostat should open and that level should go down. It's also a carbureted bike, so I think I'm going to go open up my garage door. Alright, well, we got the bike up to temperature. The water that I put in is obviously very green, so there's a little bit of coolant in the system somewhere, so that's the exact reason why I'm going to have to do this process a couple times, I think. It's an older bike and I don't even know how long this coolant's been in there, so, but I'm going to do it again. As I said, I'm going to do it after camera. So the bike got up to temperature, the thermostat opened, a whole bunch of bubbles started coming out, and then just after that happened, then the water started to boil right when the bike got about to 100 degrees Celsius, which is the boiling point of water. So it makes sense that it started to bubble up, but I had to shut the bike down at that time. So I'm just currently letting it cool, and once it cools, I'm going to put the plunger in the middle. So there's this little plunger right here, and you stick that down in the thing and push it in the hole, and then that way you can take this reservoir off without spilling all the water everywhere, right? So once the water cools down, the bike cools down, it's going to take a little while. It might take an hour or two for it to cool down. I'm going to come out here and do that. I'm going to put the radiator cap back on. I'm going to start it, and then as it's running a little bit and builds up pressure, I'm going to just turn the cap off a little bit to allow any air that's in there to escape, and then I'm going to take it for a little ride. So yeah, that's the process to filling up and doing a coolant flush on the 2001 ZX6R. The concept is pretty much the same for every bike. The main thing is finding out where the drain bolt is for your bike, right? So mine happens to be right at the bottom of the water pump. On the Triumph, you just literally have to, the Triumph Street Triple on my girlfriend's bike, you literally just have to pull the bottom hose off and then it drains out the whole system. So every bike's different. Sometimes they have a coppery, little coppery or felt washer that's sitting on there. So if you find that, that's most likely the coolant thing. And I mean, honestly, just look into your owner's manual, or you can go into, the internet, the interwebs. There's lots of information out there. So yeah, I hope this video was informative for you. This is just a quick little video I wanted to make on how to do the coolant flush on the ZX6R. I hope that showing the blinkers to the subscriber helps him as well. He has the same bike and he said there wasn't much content out there, and that's why I'm glad I'm able to do this stuff for guys. So, alright, well, thanks for watching the video. I hope it was informative for you. If you have any questions or whatever, you can leave a comment and I'll try to answer them as they come in. Please like and subscribe. It inspires me to make more content, and I really like doing this type of stuff for you guys. So we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.